You could just type that through and let us know how many of you are joining us today and perhaps which school you're joining from. We are very grateful to have Ruth Wright with us here today from Bayworld, who's going to be telling us all about turtles. So we're just going to run through a few introductory slides and a few housekeeping items, and then we're going to get started with Ruth's presentation. So we basically just wanted to let you know that you have been muted as part of the standard Zoom webinar features, but we really want to hear from you and we want to hear your feedback. So we encourage you to please type your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and we will read those through at the end of the presentation. You're welcome to send them through as we go though, so that you don't forget them. Then if you have any topics that you want to raise with the presenter, you're welcome to bring those up during the Q&A session. Then our recordings will be made available after today. And if anyone has any questions, comments, or suggestions after today's webinar, you can email us at webinars@sstafrica.org.za. So we'd love to hear your feedback there. Okay, we're gonna head over to the presentation now. We're very excited to hear about all the turtles from Ruth, so it should be a very exciting session.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruth and I work at the Sea Turtle Hospital at Bayworld Oceanarium. And I was asked this afternoon to come chat to you a little bit about sea turtles and why they are so special. I'm a little bit biased because I personally think that sea turtles are the most amazing animals in the ocean. Just look at these beautiful faces. Turtles come in all shapes and sizes, and there are many different species of turtles. But they're not just gorgeous and beautiful animals. They actually make some of the most exciting movie stars. They've been featured in a lot of movies in Hollywood, but also we featured them a few times at Bayworld. They have been the stars of a few videos that we've made. I'm going to show you a video a little bit later, but there you can see one of the turtles we released off Bird Island on the GoPro there. But they're not just amazing and awesome movie stars. Did you know turtles have been in the world's oceans for more than 100 million years? Their great ancestors of the leatherback actually shared the oceans with dinosaurs. And this picture is a depiction of one of the ancestors of the turtles called an archelon. So they've been around for millions of years. Today in our world's oceans, we have 7 different species of sea turtles. And we're very, very blessed that in South Africa, we have 5 of these 7 turtle species. Now, while sea turtles have been in our oceans for millions of years, unfortunately, due to man-made threats and also natural threats, they are facing the risk of extinction. They've been classified as vulnerable, endangered, and critically endangered. So we seriously need to do all we can, or else we might not have turtles for our kids, for our grandkids, for our great-great-grandkids in the world's oceans. Now, the thing about turtles is often they are always hungry. This is a little picture from our Sea Turtle Hospital of a loggerhead hatchling. As you can see, he's ready for his breakfast. Now, did you know turtles, sea turtles of any age, shape, or size from any species love eating jellyfish? Now, children, be very careful. If you ever see a jellyfish on the beach or in the water, don't touch. They've got long tentacles that can sting you, and it's very, very dangerous. But for a turtle, they love it. It's like spicy popcorn. But while they all love eating jellyfish when they're small, as they get bigger, they become more specialized in their diets, what they like to eat. So we get the loggerhead. There's a picture of him. And he likes eating crustaceans and mollusks. These are hard-shelled animals like mussels and crayfish and crabs. And as you can see, he's got a very broad head and a very strong jaw. And this lets him actually crush and eat these hard-shelled animals. Next comes my favorite turtle, the green turtle. And as they get older, they actually begin to eat, they become vegetarians, and they love eating seagrass. Next, we've got Hawksbill turtles. They're found on coral reefs, and they like to eat sponges. And then we've got the leatherback. This is the world's largest turtle. When it's fully grown, it will be about 2 meters in length and can weigh up to half a ton. And he, for his entire life, he'll eat jellyfish. This is what they look like when they're small. We often have a few of them in our sea turtle hospital. They look completely different to all the other species of turtles. As you can see, they don't have a very hard shell. They've got a leathery back. And as I said to you, they love eating jellyfish. Now, sea turtles don't have teeth like you and me, but this is a picture down the throat of a leatherback turtle. They've got these papillae. It's like almost fleshy, rubbery teeth that face backwards in the throat. So when a juicy jellyfish comes along, the jellyfish can't just come out of the mouth and swoosh out of the mouth, because these special little teeth are specially adapted so that the jellyfish will go down and he'll swallow his meal. But you're probably thinking, well, what's so special about a leatherback? If we didn't have any leatherbacks in the ocean, well, they're pretty, but so what? Well, actually, because they eat jellyfish their whole lives, if they weren't around, we would have jellyfish and jellyfish and jellyfish and jellyfish and more jellyfish. And eventually, there would just be jellyfish in the oceans. And I'm sure you've seen jellyfish, how they eat their prey items is they sting them with these long tentacles. They sting small baby fish, they sting larger fish, they sting larger animals, and also people. So if we had too many jellyfish in the world's oceans, we would lose a whole bunch of fish because they'd be dying from jellyfish stings. We also wouldn't be able to swim at our beaches. There would just be too many jellyfish. So actually, leatherbacks play a very important role in our marine oceans because they actually control the number of jellyfish in our world's oceans. Next comes my favorite turtle, a green turtle. As you can see, he looks completely different to the leatherback. This was a little chap we had in our sea turtle hospital not too many years ago. Now, I'm sure if you've ever seen pictures of turtles, you might have seen they have a lot of seaweed growing on their backs. Now, this is not why they're called green turtles. Unfortunately, many years ago, they used to catch green turtles and eat them. Used to catch them for their meat. Now, the meat and fat inside these turtles are actually a green color, and this is where the name green turtle came from. Now, these are seagrass beds. In some countries, they're called eelgrass, and in other countries, they're even called turtle grass. This is because this is one of the favorite food items for green turtles. And green turtles are actually referred to as the lawnmowers of the ocean because they come along in these large fields of seagrass beds, and they'll actually slowly sit and they'll carefully eat. Now, they don't have teeth. Remember, I said turtles don't have teeth, but if you look at the top picture, you will see here along the edge of the jaw, it's serrated, almost like a knife. And they use this to actually cut the grass that they eat. But they don't just eat everything. They're very careful. They don't pull the roots out, and they nibble and trim the grass, almost like, when you see your dad mowing the lawn. This is exactly what they do. And what this does is this marine ecosystem, the seagrass beds, is very important. It provides a very important habitat for juvenile fish. Where little fish is swimming along and a predatory fish comes along, it darts down into these large fields of grass, and it's actually protected. So what the green turtle does is by trimming and eating nicely on these large seagrass beds, it helps maintain the seagrass and also gives it healthy growth. And so by doing this, it's actually maintaining the health of the seagrass bed and protecting the lives of these little fish because it's keeping the grasses healthy. Also, if you look outside, you know the way trees and bushes, they use their roots to just stabilize the soil. Now, this is exactly what happens underwater on the seabed. The roots of these seagrass, they actually stabilize the ocean floor and protect it against erosion and huge waves and storms. So without green turtles, these marine ecosystems of the eelgrass beds would actually be really unhealthy, and it would be a huge problem. Next, we come to a hawksbill. Now, the reason for a hawksbill's name is if you look very closely, you can see he looks completely different to the other turtles we've talked about so far. Turtles and reptiles are actually closely related to birds, but That's not the reason for this. If you look at his head, it's very, very narrow and sharp. And they actually refer to the turtle's mouth as a beak. And in his case, it's very narrow and sharp and looks a bit like a hawk. We have a few of these in our sea turtle hospital, and I'll chat a little bit about one of the hawksbills that we had a few years ago. But you normally find them on coral reefs. And what happens is coral reefs are a very important marine ecosystem. They provide shelter and habitat for juvenile fish, even larger reef fish, and also marine invertebrates, animals without a backbone. But coral reefs, they're very, very precious. However, they grow very slowly. And in amongst these coral reefs, often you have sea sponges. Now, sea sponges grow very quickly. And what can happen is the sea sponge can grow over the top of the coral reef, smothering it and killing it. So along comes our hawksbill turtle. Their favorite food when they're older are sea sponges, as you can see in the picture. And because he's got such a narrow, sharp face, he can actually swim along to the reef very carefully. He puts his little beak in between all the corals and he'll eat out those sea sponges. And by doing this, what he's actually doing is protecting the coral reef, protecting it from sea sponges, but also he eats some sea sponges and not other sea sponges. So he'll actually control the population of various sea sponge species, but also he allows other little sponges to grow, the ones he doesn't find so delicious. And this helps increase the biodiversity or the number of species of sea sponges on coral reefs. So very, very special. So without hawksbill turtles, we would have a huge problem with our coral reefs. They wouldn't be as healthy or in as good state as they are because of our turtles. Now, while turtles have been around for so very millions and millions of years, unfortunately, there's a huge problem now with plastic pollution. And we often show this picture. You see the difference, but turtles don't. You can see on the one side is a plastic shopping bag, and on the other is a jellyfish. I'm sure you're all looking at the screen and going, man, I know that's a shopping bag, I'm not silly. But how many times have you seen a sea turtle in Checkers or ShopRite? You know, they've never been to a shopping center. They've never been in a shop. They don't know what a shopping bag looks like. So they assume when there's something that looks like a shopping bag in their ocean, it must be a jellyfish, and they end up eating it. Now, in our sea turtle hospital, we often have little hatchlings, little loggerhead hatchlings. And you can see here, we'll go walking on the beach and catching a whole lot of blue bottles, which they love to eat. But if you look closely, a blue bottle is about the right color as a piece of plastic. And not only do the small ones eat small plastic, the larger ones, unfortunately, it's a very sad picture of a hawksbill turtle eating a plastic bag. Now, as I said, in our sea turtle hospital, we often get very tiny little loggerhead hatchlings. You can see this one only weighs just over 20 grams. And this is the size normally that they hatch out of the eggs. And you're probably thinking, well, this little guy's probably not going to try and eat a big plastic bag. But they do unfortunately eat plastics and microplastics, which is very sad. Now, just as an example from our sea turtle hospital, during 2020 last year, we had a hawksbill turtle named Dr. Zeus come in. He was found floating by members of the public in a rock pool in St. Francis. And he was doing quite well, but then we started seeing funny stuff in the bottom of his tank. And on closer inspection, we found all of these small pieces of plastic that he had pooed out, even a ballpoint pen lid. So it's very sad because we see examples of this often in the sea turtle hospital. But I'm very happy to tell you that after a lot of tender loving care and visits from our vet, and a lot of juicy food that we fed our little hawksbill, we safely released him back home into the ocean on Christmas Eve last year. Now, I don't want this to be a very sad talk or anything, but just to tell you guys that virtually every piece of plastic that was ever manufactured or made on planet Earth still exists today in some shape or form. And this is because plastic takes so long to degrade, to break down. So how can you help? Well, the thing is, you have so much plastic on land and it blows into the ocean. Because every single piece of plastic still exists on our planet today, if you pick up just one piece of litter, you could be saving a sea creature's life. You could be saving a turtle's life, because that piece of plastic could have blown in the ocean and been swallowed by a sea turtle. So please, kids, you can make a difference. You can help us save turtle lives, because this is very sad, but only 2 of every 1,000 hatchlings will survive to reach adulthood. So by picking up one piece of plastic, you could be saving one turtle's life, and that could be the 1 out of 1,000 that's going to survive to adulthood. So the best day in our sea turtle hospital is release day. This is the day when we get to take them and put them back in the ocean, take them back home. Now, this is a green turtle. If you look closely, you might see his little serrated jaw. This is off Bird Island, and after many, many months of care and vet visits and tender loving care, we managed to release him safely back in the ocean. So I'm going to play you this video and enjoy, and you can see a turtle swimming. Hopefully. Okay, what he's doing here is he's tasting the water and smelling. And you can see he's got a little bit of seaweed growing on his back. And there he's just swimming off down towards the reef. This is the best day ever. We know we're going to miss them because we grow to love them because they're in our care for so long. But it's the most amazing thing. And so I just want to encourage you all that together we can make a difference. Pick up plastic. If you're ever walking on the beach and you come across a turtle, please don't put it back in the water. Sea turtles are only supposed to be on the beach when they're laying eggs. And this doesn't happen down where we live because it's too cold here. So if you ever come across a turtle on the beach, please pick it up and bring it to your closest aquarium, because together we can make a difference and save lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ruth, and thanks everyone for joining us. We have 1 or 2 other things to go through, and then we'll move on to the Q&A session. And we'll get to hear all your wonderful questions. I just wanted to let you all know that we do have some activities available online this week, specifically for Marine Week. So you can access those by going to africanwasteacademy.org, and then you'll need to register with an email address. Either you could use your teacher or your parent might be able to assist you with that. And then you'll select the course Marine Week 2021 and enroll for it using the key MW21. So there are a few different activities available there for this week. They will be following the webinars, so it'll be a great way to follow up. Now we're going to move on to questions. I'm very excited to see what everyone wants to know, and I'm sure Ruth is as well. So I see the first one we have is, why don't turtles get stung by jellyfish when they eat them?
That is a very good question. Turtles have very thick skin on their faces and protective area over their eyes. So, and also the shell as well protects them. So, and they were just born to eat jellyfish. But just remember, even if you see a jellyfish lying on the beach, don't try and pick it up, because even though it might look dead, it can still sting.
Thanks, Ruth. Then sorry about that. Then then we have another question that says, where do the turtles stay away or close to our beaches? So I think they're asking, when they're not close to our beaches, where do they live?
Okay, that's a very good question. Usually when the turtles hatch, when they're tiny, and they just come out of the eggs and they run down the beach into the water, basically nobody knows where baby turtles go. They used to call them, there was a big researcher in America, Archie Carr, and he used to refer to these years as the lost years because they simply didn't know where the turtles went. And turtles take a really long time to get to sexual maturity where they're able to lay eggs and breed. And then suddenly researchers found them popping up in places where they were feeding and getting ready to go lay eggs. But that long stretch of time, nobody actually knows. So it's quite a mystery. But nowadays, though, we've got turtles swimming all the way along our coastline, all the way from the Mozambique KZN border, where they actually lay eggs, all the way down to the west coast. So if you're swimming, you could be lucky enough to see a turtle.
That's very exciting. I didn't know they came down as far as all the way to the west coast. There's another question here from Philippa that says, how did you get to work with turtles? What did you study?
I was very, very fortunate. I studied marine biology at UCT down in Cape Town, and then I started working at Bayworld in Port Elizabeth about 8 years ago. And yeah, that's when I first met my turtles and started working with them. So the best thing, kids, if you're keen, go to your local aquarium, wherever that is. I see some folks are from Durban. Go to your local aquarium and go volunteer, because the best way to get experience is hands-on.
Thanks, Ruth. There's another question here that says, why do jellyfish taste like spicy popcorn?
Well, personally, I've never actually eaten a jellyfish. Now I hope I never do. But basically, at any stage of life for a turtle, they love jellyfish. And there's been a few studies on how nutritious jellyfish are for turtles, and it just seems to be the right combination of nutrients and proteins that growing turtles need. So while I say spicy popcorn, it could be more like pizza, it could be more like taco, you never know. But don't try this at home, kids. Okay.
Thanks, Ruth. There's another question here that says, what creature eats baby turtles the most?
What creature eats sea turtles the most? When they're hatchlings, I'm sure you've seen those videos where the hatchling comes out of the egg and it's running down the beach. Shame. Those, everyone eats those. Birds, crabs, honey badgers, ants. If the ants get into the nest, they can also destroy the eggs. Fish as well. As the turtles get a bit bigger, sharks would eat them. And then there's also problems. People also used to eat turtles. Now they're protected all over the world. You cannot harm or harass turtles. It's against the law. But yeah.
Wow, that's a tough time for the turtles. There's another question here that says, how many turtles are you looking after in the turtle hospital at the moment?
Whew. Well, I'm sure you can see how red my face is. We had a brand new turtle come in today to the hospital. So in the last month, we've had 4 come in. Those are green turtles, the ones that eat the seagrass. We had 4 green turtles. We've got another 10 loggerhead hatchlings. And then we've got another 2 that we're hoping to release soon. And then we've got a bunch of residents. So the residents are animals that are missing. A whole flipper is off. And they're staying with us at the moment until we, know what's best for them. But so I've probably got about 15, 16 turtles at Bayworld at the moment.
Okay. There's another question here that says, why do turtles become vegans after a while? I'm not sure if they're asking about where it moves from jellyfish to seagrass.
Okay. Out of the 7 turtle species, there's only one that becomes, it's technically not vegan though, it's probably more vegetarian, because if it's at a certain size, it's not really an age, it's more a size thing, and when it gets to about 30 centimeters, so like a ruler in length, it will start looking for more seagrasses and seaweeds and algae, and then that's mostly what it will eat. But it will still, if a jellyfish comes along, it will eat the jellyfish, and if a fish comes along, it will also eat that. So technically not vegan, but yeah, vegetarian for sure.
Thanks, Ruth. Then there's another question that says, how many eggs do turtles lay at once?
Wow. I think between 100 and 120. And they say they look like about the size of a ping pong ball. And they're kind of soft and almost rubbery when they're first laid, because the female digs this like deep hole. And then as she's dropping the eggs in, they've got to be soft so that as they fall into the nest, they don't crack and break. So about between, I think, 100 and 120.
That's a lot. And then of those, only about 2 out of 1,000 survive.
Yeah, and also the female, like during a given nesting season. So they're actually nesting now up in northern KZN. It's between October and March every year. And one female will actually come out about 7 different times. And each time she comes out, she'll lay, they call it a clutch of eggs. And she'll lay like, say, 100, 120, and then she'll go off, and then she'll turn around, and a few days or weeks later, she'll come back and lay some more. So they kind of just, they know that there's, that only 2 of 1,000 going to hatch. So they lay lots and lots and lots of eggs, hoping, that they'll survive.
Okay. Then there's another question here that says, how many turtles have you saved from the time you started working at Bayworld?
Ooh, that's a good question. We work in a big team. It's very exciting. I work with 3 other awesome guys. So it's definitely teamwork. I would say maybe about 70, 80.
Wow, okay. That's quite a lot. Then there's the next question says, how does electricity come out of the jellyfish?
It feels to us like electricity, but it's actually stinging. So what happens is, protein. So we've got proteins on our fingers, and protein is what triggers the jellyfish tentacle to actually sting. And it's tiny, tiny. You won't be able to see it with your eye, but it's almost like a bee sting. So it shoots out and stabs and then injects like a poison. And that's kind of what it feels like, a little bit of like electricity, but it's more like a sting. It's more like a bee sting. And you have to be very careful, because if you're allergic, then it can be very, very dangerous. So yeah, so best just never touch. Even you get some jellyfish that don't sting, but it's best just to, if you see a jellyfish, be like, oh, it's pretty over there, I'll keep my distance,
That's fair enough. There's another question here that says, how do turtles survive in water?
Okay, so turtles don't have gills like fish. They breathe air like us. They've got lungs. They're just way better at holding their breath than we are. So you'll always see turtles can hold their breath for up to between 4 and 7 hours. So it's a really long time, but they do always have to come to the surface to breathe. So even when they're sleeping, that 4 to 7 hours is usually when they're sleeping, and they'll go and sit in a rock in the reef and have a snooze, and they'll go back up to the surface. And that's pretty much how they survive. And then they have to come out to lay the eggs, because the eggs would actually drown if they were laid in the water. That's why they have to come up onto the beach and dig the nest, to lay the eggs.
Okay, so they don't have gills then?
No, they've got lungs like us.
Okay, and are turtles reptiles?
Yes, turtles are reptiles. They're normally related, their land cousin would be the tortoise, and their freshwater cousin would be the terrapin that lives in rivers and flays.
Okay. And then there's another question here that says, how long does it take for turtle eggs to hatch?
Roughly about 60 days. So that's a rough estimation, because sometimes if the temperatures are a bit warmer, they might hatch faster. So there are rangers on the beach that actually there's rangers on the beach that actually will mark the nests up in KZN, and then sometimes they'll go back around the 60-day mark to go and see the eggs hatching.
Okay, and does the temperature determine whether the eggs will hatch as males or females?
Yeah, so it's a very unique thing that you find in quite a few reptiles, those cold-blooded animals. The temperature in the sand around the nest will actually determine what gender the eggs will be. So the warmer temperatures, I think they said it's above 30 degrees Celsius, those will be females. When they come out, if the nest temperature is less than 27 degrees, those will be males that will hatch.
Okay. And then we've got 2 questions here that follow on from each other that says, why do parents just leave the eggs and not stay around to protect them?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Some animal species, they don't have parental care. you know, sometimes it's a tough life. They're like, this is what we do. And yeah, it's very tough. But I also read somewhere, certain places around the world, they've got hatcheries where they actually dig up the nest, take the eggs and grow them in like an incubator and then let them hatch out. And they did lots of studies and they actually found that the animals that came from those nurseries where they took such good care of them, they weren't actually better off than the ones that were just born on the beach, because they need to struggle. They need to dig themselves out of this deep nest. They need to run down the sand. They need to get in the water. And this is all the strongest, the fittest, the fastest are the ones that are going to survive. And unfortunately, they actually need that, because in those years where we don't know where they go, they need to be strong. They need to be swimming, getting away from the sharks. They need to be finding the best food. And in order to do that, then you know that you've got the best of the best, and he's going to make babies that are going to be the best of the best. So it's very sad, and it's difficult for us to understand, because we would never do that to our kids. But yeah, turtles are tough.
And then following on from that, are turtles aggressive?
Well, most most of our sea turtle hospital, most of us have been bitten. Not too bad, but aggressive, I wouldn't say so. They can be what you call territorial. So if they've got a special territory, normally in the ocean, but it can happen in aquariums, in tanks, when one animal decides, this is my spot, you keep away or I'm going to hurt you. That's territorial. So not really aggressive, more like defending their turf kind of thing. Loggerheads bite more than other turtles. So you have to have quick fingers if you want to work with 6 sea turtles. Quick fingers.
And is it quite painful when they bite?
Yes.
Okay. I see we've gone a little bit over time here. So we're just going to have one last question that says, can you track the turtles that you release? Is it possible to use a tracker on the ones that you've helped at Bayworld?
Okay, so it was really exciting. We've only done it twice because it's very expensive, but you get satellite tags, which you actually, a special glue, you glue it on top of the shell, and then it actually pings to a satellite. So we released the animal in Algoa Bay off PE, and then it was giving regular updates. And so we were tracking the animal as it swam along the coast. So it is possible. We've only done it twice, but it's very exciting to see. And yeah, we hope to, if we get sponsors, we hope to do it again in the future.
Okay, that's very, very interesting to know where they go once you release them back into the sea. I see we have gone a little bit over time. So if anyone does have any questions after today's session, you're welcome to email us and we can pass those on to Ruth. You can email us at webinars@sstafrica.org.za. And yeah, it was wonderful to have you with us here today, Ruth. I've learned a lot. I'm sure some of our attendees have as well. Yeah, do you want to say any closing words before we end today's session?
Just thanks for the opportunity. It's really awesome to chat to you all, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. There have been some comments here in the chat that says that was very interesting. Thank you, and that was awesome. So we're going to end today's session here, but we look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow for our talk on penguins, which should be very exciting as well. So thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Ruth, for your time, for your expertise, and all the interesting stories about penguins. That's great. Thanks, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your afternoons, everyone.